This is the Grow Your Clinic podcast from Clinic Mastery. We help progressive health professionals to lead inspired teams, transform client experiences, and build clinics for good. Now, it's time to grow your clinic.
Welcome to the Grow Your Clinic podcast. My name is Ben Lynch. Today, I'm joined by Tessa Kennelly. Tessa is the operations manager at Beyond, a Melbourne-based clinic, primarily osteopaths, but helping people move through life through a variety of disciplines, a team of 88 at the time of this recording. Tessa, as she was studying, also played a role on the front desk in admin and got to understand the entire client care journey, which gave her the insights and skills to be a great therapist and then progress to being the operations manager of a fast, progressive, modern and growing clinic in Melbourne, Australia. We talked about recruiting your ideal team members, retaining those team members through pathways, and we talked about the hardships of COVID, the lessons as leaders, and also your genius in business. We covered a whole bunch of different areas. Let's jump into the conversation. Enjoy. What podcast do you listen to? What sort of gets into your earbuds?
I reckon most recently, and probably majority of what I do listen to is definitely Entree Leadership. Shane got me onto those quite early on.
Yes.
And I really relate to them. I don't listen to any podcasts probably socially or sort of outside of work. I'm definitely anything leadership that I can dig my teeth into and bring back to the clinic is actually what I enjoy listening to. So yeah.
Nice. When do you listen? Like on a run or gym, or where do you listen?
On a walk. I can't concentrate when I'm running to try and absorb that information and also breathe at the same time.
Yeah, makes sense.
So walk or in the car is usually when I would do my best podcast listening.
What's been a key leadership lesson for you this year, whether it's through a podcast, a book, your own experiences? What would you say?
Good question. I think one that I listened to recently, and it's probably not so much around leadership, but obviously has the flow on, was around procrastination. I don't know where we got it from,
right?
But it is one of the best podcasts I've listened to. I think there was 3 different types of procrastination, and I took so much out of it and could relate to all 3, unfortunately, and also the worst one. I think that was probably good because it was then we're able to pass that on to my sort of direct reports in the team in the clinic, but then know that they've also passed it on to people that they're mentoring as well. So it had this really nice flow-on effect at different levels, which was really cool.
It's cool how it impacts, like a domino effect through the organization like that. Yeah. You're listening to a podcast on a walk or a run, maybe not a run in your case.
Yeah.
And just the impact that it can have is pretty profound. So with that, were there any tips, tricks, strategies that you came away from that episode now doing and helping your procrastination tendencies, as we all have?
Yep. No, definitely. I've been pretty good. I definitely still go in and out a little bit, but I think the biggest things I've been able to take away just the importance of actually planning, time blocking, all those basics that we know, but actually being very disciplined with doing that. And I always it's usually a Friday afternoon. If I haven't quite got to it, I'll do it on a Sunday afternoon before I start the week, but plan out the whole week. What meetings have I got? What time do I need to prepare? When I'm actually time blocking to do some of those key things. So when all that goes to plan, it works really well with all the spot fires that jump in between that. So I think actually sounds simple, but just sticking to work blocks and time blocks.
How do you account for that in your schedule? I know some folks tend to be really specific and almost account for every minute in their day. Others a little more white space in the calendar, but so often people bring up that point around, hey, but spot fires happen and I have to react to certain things. How do you go about allowing time to respond to the needs of the moment?
Yeah, I definitely don't time block every single minute of the day. I have my runs and my Pilates in there for the week, so I make sure that that's booked in. And then, say for today, I've had a couple of meetings this morning, definitely had some downtime where I knew that I was going to have to catch up and scheduled in checking Slack, checking emails, and then obviously, some more project work, in a chunk of time. So definitely each day doesn't have things back to back. And I have at the end of every day, what are the actions from all the meetings that I've had that I then need to go back and, put into my workflow for whenever it needs to get done. So it all sounds good in theory, and then it's just about sticking to it.
The joys of managing, the diary and the productivity outputs are, I find myself, changing things up probably on a monthly and definitely a quarterly basis as well. You just find new ways to get into a workflow and get things done. So you spoke to your direct reports and then those that then mentor other folks. Give us a little insight into what that involves, your role in mentoring or supporting direct reports.
Yeah, we've set it up. So with my main role at the clinic being head of operations, I have a team of 3 area managers that then go and oversee the 7 clinics. And so they work really closely with the clinic director that's at each clinic too. So in terms of my role with mentoring and supporting them, we have an operations meeting at the start of every week. They bring their top 3 things that they need to work through with the group that they're having trouble with their clinic directors, and then they go back and then can work with them. We also in that session do a bit of a deep dive, so if it's a new system or something that I think needs addressing, we'll sort of have the power of the brain's trust of the group in that session that I can get their ideas. And then we have once a fortnight with all of the clinic directors, all of the area managers, a meeting which is half based on me presenting or rolling out a new system that we might be putting into the group, or the other half is they bring a problem very similar to Clinic Mastery, come with a couple of solutions, and then get the ideas and the brains of the other clinics as well, which seems to work quite well too. And to keep them all accountable to that, we've got obviously Slack channel and posting what people are working on during the week, and there's that ongoing support there as well.
It's a really neat way to do it, because so often with meetings, they can be just updates and you're just going through a whole bunch of stuff that could be done asynchronously. So to be able to bring a problem, 2 solutions, then workshop, it's almost like a mastermind instead of a meeting. So you have a weekly operations meeting, and that's with your 3 direct area managers.
Yep.
And what does the structure of that meeting look like? How long is it? What's key on that agenda?
We try and keep it to 40 minutes and start off with a go beyond moment. So we start off the week on a Monday morning, they're either shouting out something for themselves or something that they've seen across the team in that last week since we last met, which is always really nice. And then we work through those 3 area managers with their top 3 things they want to go through. So we've changed it. Over the years, we'd go through each clinic and we'd sit there and work out what we need to talk about with each one. We've then done it based on the different areas of their roles. So we talked about recruitment and then marketing, community nurturing, any team, HR. But we've found rather than going through each one, it's actually more beneficial for them to have gone away and thought, what is it I actually need help on? And they bring their top 3 first. And then we do that deep dive if I've got something I need to run past them, get their ideas on, or maybe something new that I'm wanting to roll out and get their idea, whether it's a good idea or a bad idea.
Yeah, that's really cool. Okay, so it's pretty much a mastermind solving problems for those area managers. Do you get notice ahead of time as to what those challenges might be, and how does that sort of play out on your end?
Yeah, we try and have the agenda ready for the Monday morning at the latest by Friday lunchtime. So everyone's put in their top 3 so we can see what they want to bring to the table. And often there is a bit of crossover. If it was, say, 2 of them that are having trouble recruiting, or 2 of them that maybe are having, an issue with something else in the clinic. So, we have it there so it's all ready to go, and then we can get straight into the meeting.
as part of your role, evolution, your operations manager, that's the role you play. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep. Head of operations.
Head of operations. And how did you progress to that position within Beyond? Give us a little insight into your story and evolution.
It's definitely evolved. I started with Beyond, I'll give my age away here, but 12 years ago, I had just turned 19, and I was about 6 months into my osteo course, and there was an ad that popped up for a casual reception position, 5 hours at the clinic. And at that point, there was Hawthorn and Windsor that Shane and Shell had started. So yeah, put my hat in the ring, and ended up working as a receptionist, literally probably 5 hours a week to start. And then from then, absolutely loved it. Loved the people, loved the behind the scenes of how a clinic runs and what I got exposed to. So yeah, all the way through uni, did reception, probably ended up working a little bit too much in my last couple of years. But I just loved it, loved being in that environment, loved the fast pace. And then as the clinics have grown, that role and that need for that role has shifted. So I think it ended up being still reception, but then some hours off reception, doing some project work as the clinics were growing. And the two owners at the time, Shane and Shell, didn't have the capacity to do everything as we were growing and growing pretty quickly. So then that stepped into some more project work, and the hours of what I was treating compared to what I was doing then ended up with this nice split. So now I only do 10 hours a week clinically, and the rest of my week is head of operations as we've grown to more recently 7 clinics. So there's a lot of stuff in between, and a lot of support, a lot of opportunities with Clinic Mastery, other consultants to build up my skill set in that area too.
Having that context and perspective of reception, I often see as just so valuable, especially as a therapist, and then also moving into operations. So many people are challenged by how to set up, quite a successful admin team who are so important in the client care journey. What have been some of the lessons or observations that you've found in creating a really great front of house or back of house even admin team?
Good question. I think it stemmed from when I was on reception, and even then the skill set that I learned from the practitioners that I was helping when I was on reception. One of them sticks in my mind that after every shift, as he was leaving, if he was leaving before me, a practitioner would always stop and turn to me and say, "Thanks so much for your help today, Tessa." And from then I realised the impact that you can have on reception, and how that's so important for us then to, whether it's a practitioner or whether it's in my role now, that we can actually acknowledge the amazing work that they do. The clinic definitely does not run without that front of house. We call them face of Beyond because that's what they are. And so I think, being able to actually understand the processes makes it a bit more genuine when we're trying to actually encourage and lead that group of people. And then also from the practitioner side too, getting them on board with that reception is such an integral part of the team, and that you can see with the relationship that our reception has with the rest of the practitioners as well, which is pretty special. So they are arguably the most important people in the clinic.
Wow, very important. How do you go about integrating those elements of the clinic? Let's call them kind of two teams, admin team and therapist team, because we certainly see a lot of divide in clinics where it's like us versus them, the admin and the therapists. How do you go about integrating those humans so that they provide the best client experience and get all the things that need to be done operationally done?
We don't really refer to them as all right, this is the admin team and all the updates are going to them specifically, and then the practitioners, it's little things I think that we acknowledge in the clinic. We have on Slack a Go Beyond channel that the whole team is in, and you'll have reception shouting out a practitioner shouting out admin. So there's no divide there. And we're not discriminating against things that are Go Beyond. It could be admin related, it could be clinically related, it could be just someone in the team that's run a marathon. And so I think we acknowledge right from the start that anything anyone's doing in the clinic, regardless of what role or what position or what title they have, it doesn't matter. We're all working together for the same goal. So yeah, it's pretty seamless. I think even social events too, they're all there. Team meetings, if they want to jump in, they can. That sort of thing as well.
You've spoken a couple of times there about acknowledging one another. Can you give us an insight? What does that look like in Beyond?
We've refined it over the years. It's something that we always try and put a new filter on. So anything from the Go Beyond channel, a shout out, words of affirmation, we know is not everyone. We have a reward and recognise program. So essentially in the back end, everyone's anniversary that comes in, even before that, someone new coming into the clinic, if it's part of that admin team, if it's one of the practitioners, we celebrate their first 100 days, just like a lot of clinics as well. I know we've got a receptionist coming up next week. We're really mindful to not miss it in this weird Christmas time.
Yeah, cool.
It's a 1 year with us, casual receptionist who probably does less than 10 hours a week. And, I went around and asked the team, not me personally, but one of the others went around and asked the team, what can we get her? What does she like? What are her interests? So right from the start, we essentially have this really nice profile of what team like, what they enjoy, and get to know them on a personal level, because that's really what makes people feel valued and special too, celebrating those 1%ers.
In knowing parts of your story personally and the Beyond story as well over time, something that's always stood out is intentionality, is kind of purpose behind decisions and actions as well. What does that look like on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis in some of the meetings that you have, or in some of the ways that you as a team conduct yourselves? Because it keeps coming up, no matter whether it's a casual observer, the clients, other people in the community. Just Beyond has such a positioning of intentionality and purpose behind what happens. And maybe you can speak to the evolution. Maybe there was a time where it wasn't as purposeful as it was, and what are some of the key things that you've done to be as thoughtful as you are in what you do?
I think it all goes back to values for us, and actually genuinely living and breathing and talking about them every day in the clinic. So the three for us are integrity, greatness, and go beyond. Go beyond, speaks for itself. We literally talk about that every day. It is my personal favorite Slack channel in all of the many Slack channels that we have. And I see that going off. I don't know, I shouldn't, but I always click on it because I want to see what great things someone's done. So that, I think, in terms of team and being really team orientated, we literally see that in actions every day in the clinic. And then integrity and greatness, like everything we do, we put through that filter. Is it good for team, and is it good for our clients and our community as well? And we literally speak that language in every single meeting, in every single decision that we make, whether that's in mentoring, and team are obviously there and being supported in those operations meetings that we spoke about. Is this going to be good for team? Is this the easiest way for team? What's this going to do to our client experience as well? And then in our management meetings as well, literally we spend so much time talking about team and how we can change things for the better for our team. So I think we just put it through that filter, and it's that repetition, and we don't do anything that's going to go against that. And because everyone as the team has grown, has been on board with that, there's always someone in the room that can catch us if we aren't maybe making a decision that has been put through those filters. If we ever are going astray, there's someone in there, because they understand the values. We literally live and breathe them every day, that there's someone there to pull us up or put forward a better idea that might be helpful to what we're trying to achieve.
How does that play out, to give us an insight? Because I'm kind of understanding there might be moments where there's a bit of candor shared, or that people are potentially making someone feel awkward because they've deviated from the Beyond way and they have to call it out. What are some of the things that you do to maybe facilitate or encourage that, or allow it to happen in a supportive way, that people don't feel like, oh, geez, I can't speak up here because I'm afraid of the consequences, that maybe I'm not as beyond as I need to be? How do you facilitate the safety in the space to allow people to do that? And then how do you kind of call them out when it doesn't go to the Beyond philosophy?
Yeah, good question. I think It all starts through induction. So we are constantly going back and refining our induction. And right from the start, that is one of the things that we say is that, we always want to have that honest open door policy working above the line, all the things that so many clinics do. But for us, we actually put it back onto the team and say, don't wait for us. If you see something, actually call each other out as well. And it's obviously really scary, especially when you're new in a workplace. But we find that actually goes back to that integrity, living and breathing those values, that we actually put that back onto the team for them to actually, kind of call each other out, really, rather than always waiting for us. And that works well. I know everyone's really biased with their team, but we generally are very fortunate that our team are amazing, and that we very rarely have to call anyone out because they've already done it or picked up themselves in self-reflection. And I think we demonstrate that as some of the leaders and mentors and clinic directors in the clinics by being pretty vulnerable as well. I think I definitely am. I hope I am with the team, and I think that makes us more relatable, and that we are all humans at the end of the day, and we do make mistakes. So being able to put ourselves in each other's shoes and be a bit vulnerable, I think also helps too.
What does vulnerable look like for you and the team? Because we often hear people talk about how valuable it is to be vulnerable with their team, to give them the context, to add that human element to what we're doing. Perhaps there's a line where it can be well below the line, if that makes sense, where you're kind of just offloading all the crap in your life or in your business, especially as a business owner, that people don't want to hear about your problems. I can hear someone saying. So how do you be vulnerable with your team? What does that look like or sound like in Beyond, and maybe especially for you?
I think it started with me from like a practitioner, put my practitioner hat on. I've always been pretty open and I think pretty good at building relationships with patients, and without having a guard up. Obviously, you've still got to be professional, but if you can actually relate and show a bit of your side, you build that relationship, and you build that trust with your patients. And it's no different with team. I think I actually find that something that comes quite naturally, and I think it does for quite a few of our leaders in the team. That maybe it is because we do have that practitioner patient care background, that for a lot of us it is easier to show a little bit of yourself, and definitely the last couple of years with the pandemic that's happened, we were just really transparent and honest with the team without creating panic and, as you said, like not offloading everything. There is a line, and which meetings or people that you're talking to, that you can have that that discussion. But with the team in general, we're honest. We tell them what's happening without creating any panic. But we show that we're real humans, and that we'll just be honest, I think is the key.
You spoke to COVID there, and who knows if we're out of it or in it. I don't know, but it certainly isn't as intense.
I don't know anymore.
Been through the ringer. It's not as intense as it once was. What are some of the reflections that you have at this point of COVID? Some of the personal growth that you've had, the team had. How do you reflect on the earlier days of COVID and where you are now? What stands out to you?
I think early on for the team, it was just about updating and giving them as much information as we had. And a lot of the time we didn't have that information because we were just like everyone getting drip fed. So we literally said that it's like, this is the update, this is what we've got happening now. The team being really on board with hopefully us creating that sense of trust. There was so much change and unknown, and we tried to make being in the clinic as stable and normal as we could for them. And always trying to, as much as we could, be a couple of steps ahead, being vulnerable, going back to that with the team. Very early on, we said, we don't know what's going to happen. There are some things that need to change. And I remember very clearly, I think there was, 45 faces on Zoom, and it was almost like a town hall. We don't know what we're heading into. We know a few things need to change, and yeah, it was pretty scary, but it was pretty powerful. The messages that came in after that on Slack, just saying, "Yep, 100% behind you. We're all here. We're doing this together." And all of a sudden, we were like, "This group of people are incredible." And yeah, it was. I think looking back on it now, just the strength of knowing that we created this safe space for the team.
How would you say you're better as a leader, having gone through COVID?
Definitely more resilient. I don't know if it's better, but I've definitely got more grey hairs that have popped up.
We all do.
I think yeah, more resilient, and definitely not afraid to have to make decisions quickly, and big decisions as well. Being able to back myself a bit more too, and not being as concerned when there is something that needs to change, knowing that we've gone through this rapid change quickly. So yeah, I think being more confident and definitely more resilient.
When it comes to making big decisions, because there are plenty of those in business, what are some of the principles or processes that you use to help make the best decisions?
The filters that I spoke to before, so actually taking a step back, is this going to be the best thing for the team, and is this the best thing for our client experience, client journey? They'd be the two, and then bouncing ideas off the team. I don't think there's a decision that I make without asking the people that I trust and know that can have a positive impact, and be really honest as well with me, and being very open to feedback as well. That I make that really clear. If there's something that I've done, made a decision, or something, that come and talk to me straight away, so that we can learn and we can fix it. So yeah, I think filters and bouncing ideas with the support of the team.
You've spoken a lot about the team size at the moment. How big is the team at Beyond?
88 people.
88 is quite a team to be across. Can you give us an insight into some of the philosophies that you have at Beyond around team and pathways and growth for team members? To be able to recruit, attract, retain that amount of humans is quite special. So, what are some of the elements of the secret sauce, the principles that you have around team at Beyond?
On our, we have a leadership retreat at the beginning of every year with mentors and clinic directors and anyone in that sort of management operations team. And this year we talked a lot about who's our Beyond avatar. Who do we want to be recruiting, not only for practitioner or admin in general, but then also who are our future leaders that maybe are existing team or people that we can look to try and recruit as we're growing in that leadership team. The whole team's growing. We need that leadership team to grow to support them too. And essentially the first thing that everyone always says is that they have to want to work as a team. Doesn't matter their skill set or how amazing their background is. If you don't want to be part of working really closely and collaboratively with the group, then it doesn't work. But in terms of, I think what we offer is that transparency, those pathways, lots of flexibility, higher income, being able to become a clinic director, being able to become a clinical mentor with some hands off from clinical, being able to become a shareholder if you actually want to buy into, the Beyond Group down the track as well. There's so many options, and we're constantly refining those as well, because we've realised over time, and especially after the last couple of years, everyone wants something different. And so we spend a lot of time, just like lots of clinics, looking at what's the ideal working week, where do you want to be? All right, great, let's work back from that, and try and then actually tailor some of our pathways to new team that are coming in as well.
When you look at offering pathways to team members and they're not quite hitting the mark, or at least in your perspective, you think they're not quite ready to enter a pathway like this, there needs to be a few changes. How do you go about having a conversation? Perhaps at times, certain team members, you think you're really missing the mark or not reading the play here at the moment, a little bit delusional with what you want and how you're going. How do you have those conversations? What are some of the frameworks, strategies, or approaches that you have to have a conversation with a team member like that?
I think it goes back to induction for us, and with that working above the line, but we also talk about that radical candor as well, with feedback that if we're doing something that you don't know why or you don't understand, come and ask us. And then the same goes in both ways. So I know it's probably not so much from me personally anymore, but with the mentors and clinic directors, they've had some really tough conversations with some of the team, but it's always pre-framed that we're going to have a really tough conversation today, Ben. I want you to know that it's coming from a place of care, because my number one job is to help to support you achieve your goals. And I can see that there's a couple of things that maybe are in your way, and we'd love to talk through those and how we can help. So I've been present and been part of many of those conversations over the years, and it's the most rewarding thing when you see someone turn around, and they're hard, definitely, and there's tears and it's awkward and it's no good, but the impact, you're doing the team an injustice if you don't have those conversations, in my eyes. So yeah, difficult conversations and pre-framing very early on that radical candor is something that is really important in teams' growth.
Love that, pre-framing the conversation at the very beginning, and that touch on that it's quite a rewarding experience at the end of it, which is useful to know if you're the one having to initiate the tough conversation as well, to know that on the other side it can be, quite an amazing experience for everyone.
Definitely.
It's quite a skill. And speaking of skills, where's your genius in running a clinic? Each one of us has an ability, a skill set, something that's in our wheelhouse. We're really competent at doing it. People would pass that thing to us to do and they could count on us doing it really well. Where's your genius in running a clinic, running a business, and quite a large one?
We, at one of the leadership retreats that we had as a clinic, we talked about this, and we talked about it from the lens of what's your superpower, and we had to come up with this superhero that we thought of ourselves as, and mine was, this was a couple of years ago, mine was essentially being an octopus, being able to juggle 8 things on my tentacles, and as the team has grown, I can still do that, but I think what that has then turned into is, okay, I can juggle 8 things, but it means that I've, with the experience and the different roles that I've had in the clinic, I've had lots of exposure to different areas, and so I think I bring that skill set that I can then have it from that lens of what works well and what doesn't, and how we can actually develop that into a system as well, because I can't juggle 8 things with 88 people anymore. And so I need to be able to put that of what I'm balancing into a structured system to be able to support the team and the growth.
And how do you go about doing that at the moment? Like, literally, do you use certain tools or frameworks? Like, how are you able to do that practically in your day-to-day role?
Like many clinics, we have a Google site or Google Hub. So we call it the Beyond Hub. We have one for our whole team, and then we have one for our leadership team as well, with lots of resources, practical how-to that the team doesn't need to see in the back end. And I think the piece with that is actually committing and time blocking the time to actually update that too. And when we create something, how can we make sure that if we do need to modify it, which we love changing and making things better, how can we actually make that simple so that it is just a one step, we can update this and we don't have to then go and update it in 5 different places as well. So streamlining how we present that system or something on the hub to support team.
Great framework, great structure to be able to support you and the rest of the team. If you would capture that in a couple of, or a principle that you often find yourself maybe repeating to yourself and going back to, is there something that comes to mind that you kind of use as a soundbite or reminder for you to be able to play to your genius and be the most impactful that you can be?
I think over the last couple of years, it has gone from how can we just roll this out and how can we just have it there so it's ready for the team, to actually how can I make sure that this is going to sustain the growth that we have gone through? Is it a system that is going to work for 20 people, or is it going to work for nearly 90 people as well? And that's probably been the biggest hurdle for myself personally, that looking at things that used to work and worked really well, is that actually going to work when we've got another location or another 10 practitioners in the team as well? So that's probably the filter now, keeping it simple, but is it actually expandable as well?
Very neat to be able to future pace and think ahead like that as well. It's always fascinating for mine. So everyone has their different genius area, and maybe it is the fact that you can be kind of across everything, which is quite a skill set. Maybe not doing everything, but coordinating or facilitating the doers is quite a skill set. I think being aware of that for those listening in and watching, that is really powerful to be across, especially as you grow and scale your clinic. Nice. If there was one key lesson that you would share with the listeners or viewers here of this episode that has been key to you making some of those bigger jumps in your career, from admin to therapist to operations, and then more clearly head of operations of a large organization, what would you say a key lesson or principle has been, and that you would pass on to someone who's also navigating the different stages of growth?
Good question. I think a lot of self-reflection. I'm not one to shy away from learning, and as I said, giving and receiving feedback as well, and really taking those learnings and understanding how they can then propel me to the next stage. So being really open to feedback and open to not getting it right, which I definitely don't do all the time, but using that as a learning opportunity. I don't ever look at anything as a failure. I look at it as, what can I learn from this so that we don't do it again, and fix the system or fix something that I've done to future-proof it. So being open to feedback and learning from mistakes.
Sage advice, Tessa. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to the Grow Your Clinic podcast. To find out more about past episodes or how we can help you, head to www.clinicmastery.com/podcast, and please remember to rate and review us on your podcast player of choice. See you on the next episode.